Hey guys, hey everybody. Happy Christmas weekend, Sunday the 26th. Kind of a unique weekend for us as we had Christmas Eve service on Friday night. As a matter of fact, I'm actually recording this right after our second Christmas Eve service. So we just got through with our two Christmas Eve services, had a fantastic night together talking about Jesus as the light of the world. And because Christmas fell on a Saturday this year, it's really hard for us to turn around and do service on Sunday and respect the time of our volunteers, even our staff. And so thank you for allowing us to do this online. And all I wanted to do today is really share a few thoughts with you, kind of reflecting some things I've been thinking about, just reflecting back on the year that was 21 and looking forward to what 2022 has in store for us. It's kind of like Advent, where Advent is this balance of looking backwards in the rearview mirror of what Jesus did in the manger and also looking forward in the front windshield to what he's going to do when he arrives the second time as a conquering king. That's kind of where I've been, is just kind of looking back at 21 and using it as a platform, almost a trampoline, a catalyzer into 2022. One of the things as we went into 2022, obviously, we didn't know what the world was going to be like 21. We didn't know what it was going to be like because 2020 was such a chaotic year. We had the election, we had COVID, 21, COVID's still around, and we don't really know what the end game is with this. But we know the stress that it's causing for families, for adults, for kids, just across the board. So we knew that was going to be part of the story, but we also wanted as a church to advance. During COVID, churches all across the world, ourselves included, just got hit. And it wasn't just the physical thing, it was also we lost people from our church. People just kind of disappeared, went off the radar. We did welcome in a ton of new people. We started serving Altamonte Elementary, which has been really, for me, the highlight of 2021, was really making this relationship, this connection with the students, the faculty, the leadership over at Altamonte Elementary, and really serving them and being the hands and feet. Because our motto, our theme, our mission here at Orlando North Church isn't to come and watch me preach, come and watch our band lead songs, but instead, our mission is to go and be Christ Church. We want to worship together as a family here, but then take Jesus to our city, take Jesus to our people. And so we've done that, and we've done that really well in 21. So despite a lot of the suffering, a lot of the pain, a lot of the hits that we took, it really was a magnificent year. One of the things I mentioned tonight at the Christmas Eve service, I just want to kind of expand on it just briefly this morning, is this thread that ran through our year about giving God our first and our best. It's something that we've incorporated. We studied it during a series that we did about tithing, just this principle that we find in the Old Testament that's carried over into the New Testament, where we're commanded to give God our first and our best. It starts all the way back in Genesis with Cain and Abel, where God receives one offering because they didn't just give of their plenty or give over their leftovers. They gave of their first, believing and trusting that God would redeem the rest. It takes faith to give God your first. It takes faith to give God your best, not knowing that anything else is coming behind it. So I've been looking through and just kind of recapping. You don't really think about all of this when you're going through it. You do make some plans and try to stick to those plans, but at the end of the year, you can look back and say, oh, this is how God weaved. This is what God did in and through our church during this year. And we did a number of things, a number of series that we walked through, where I really think at the end of the day it was about the presence of God, and it was about giving him, on our end, giving him our first and our best. I was looking through the series that we preached and that we walked through this year, and there were three that stuck out to me. At the beginning of the year, we did one called Abide, where we looked at this verse of abiding in the vine and what that looked like, where we rest in him, we find our presence in him, we find our identity in the person of Jesus. He invites us to abide in him, and he in us. And so we as branches need him. And so it was really about the presence of God. It's not just let's just go through our lives and do our mission and do our thing. At the end of the day, discipleship is about growing and learning in Christ, having a relationship with Christ, spending time with him on a daily basis in this chaotic world with so much vying for our attention, whether it's work or family, sports, our hobbies, all of these different things vying for our attention. God's like, rest in me. This has to be your priority. When you get up in the morning, the very first thing that I want you to do is give your day to me. Spend time with me. Spend time in my word. And there's fruit to that. It takes faith to that. Like, instead of just getting up and getting cracking with your job or school or whatever, your relationships, Spend time with the Lord. And this is really the challenge of 2022. Let's give God our first and our best. So we started with the Abide series. The highlight series for me, and there's just no hiding it, the highlight series for me was the series called The Outsider, which was about the Old Testament book of Ruth. As we said in that series, that story was really the story of Naomi. She was the main character. She represented a lot of us, right? She represented me, certainly, where she's a whiner, she's a complainer, she doesn't get her way. God's not being the God that she wants him to be. He's not performing the way that she wants him to, so she's got expectations. But she walks outside of covenant with God. She tries to break covenant with God and do things her own way, and it's a slippery slope that doesn't end well for her, at least originally. But God is a God of redemption. God is a God of grace, and he redeems Naomi, and he has mercy and grace on Naomi. And he uses this outsider, Ruth, this girl that doesn't belong in the story because she's a Moabite. She's not even Jewish. And God uses Ruth and redeems Naomi and her story. And it's it's another story about the power of God and his presence in our life. Because a lot of us, we're going through stuff. It's health crisis, it's financial stuff, it's things that are confusing and confounding to us. But in the midst of it, we can trust that God is in it. That God, like we talked about tonight, God is this presence. He is this fiery this lit cloud by day and this fiery pillar at night, where he is the light of the world, constantly guiding us even when we're walking through dark periods of time. And that's really my hope. As we wrapped up this year, I'm like, I want people to understand this is who Jesus is. That there's not this promise that life is always going to be easy. There's this promise that life is going to have difficulties and troubles, but the promise is Emmanuel, God with us, is always with us. And we saw this in the Abide series. We certainly saw it in the series on Ruth called The Outsider. And then we wrapped up the year with our Advent series, where we talked about hope, peace, joy, love, and then tonight we talked about light. Now, we talked about a number of things in this series, if you remember, just over the course of the last month. We talked about hope, that hope is this anticipation that it's not always going to be like this. And then we talked about, and so we can hold on to anything. We can do anything for 30 seconds, right? We can suffer anything for 30 seconds, knowing that this isn't the way it's always going to be. And our life is just a fleeting vapor, that it's only 30 seconds compared to eternity, knowing that one day Jesus is going to return and bring us to himself as followers of him, and we're going to be whole, and there's going to be no more suffering, no more pain, no more struggle. So that's what hope is. And peace and joy are two sides of the same coin. They're just expressed differently. Remember, Spurgeon said that joy is peace dancing, peace is joy resting. And this is what it is. It's not conditional. It's not based upon circumstance. That if things go my way, if I get the job, if I get the girl, if I get the finances, then I will be joyous or have peace. No, that's happiness. Happiness is conditional, but joy and peace are unconditional. Regardless of how circumstances play out, it's about the presence. It's not about what I don't have physically. It's about whom I do have, which is the person of Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. That's where our peace and our joy comes from. And then finally, we looked at love, this idea of love, that God is love. And we talked about John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish but have everlasting life. And that God gave us this incredible gift. He loved us so much that he didn't just write a check to redeem us. He didn't just say some magic words to redeem us. He loved us so much that he gave us the one that meant the most to him, his only son. And the illustration in this is just insane. How many of us as parents would ever give up our children? We'd give up our own lives before we give up the lives of our children. And God the Father gave up his son who has been eternally with him because he loves you so deeply. And then tonight we talked about Jesus as the light of the world. So this is where we've been going in all of it. This thread is that we give him our first, we give him our best, and he is present with us. I want to leave you with one verse as we wrap up the year. And it's in 1 John chapter 4. 1 John chapter 4 is all about God's love. And I want you to understand that when God demands that we give him our first and our best, it's because he first gave us his first and our best. He's not asking us to initiate. He's not asking us to make the first move. He made the first move for us. 1 John says this. Starting 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 starts, and it says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him." So love is manifested in the person of Jesus, and it's expressed as God the Father sends his Son. Verse 10, "In this is love, not that we have loved God." This is awesome. Verse 10, "Not that we have loved God." This is what love looks like. "Not that we have loved him, but that he first loved us, and he sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. This is a beautiful statement in 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 through 11, where God is telling us, I initiated love. I have expressed love. Now my command to you is to pay it forward. Take what I have given you, and now go and be that love to others. Go and be that light to others. I'm not asking you to do something that I haven't first done on a greatly grander scale. I'm asking you to love people the way that I have loved you. So let that be, as we wrap up this year, as we wrap up everything with Orlando North and we head into 2022, we got great plans for 22. It's going to be awesome. And I'm asking you, come on January 2nd at 10 a.m. Be ready as we start our services, our special nightly services on January 9th, 10th, and 11th, called The First. It used to be called Renew. It's now called The First. I want you there. It's going to be really important because we got some great things that we're planning and we want to unveil them to you and unpack them with you on those nights. So I will see you January 2nd at 10 a.m., but this is what I want to leave you with. God is present. God is with you in the darkest of times. It's not about avoiding problems or escaping problems. Emmanuel, God with us, is with you. And he's asking you to love others, love your neighbor, love your enemy, love others. Give your first, give your best, because that's what he did first. And he initiated it. I love you from Melanie, my kids, our staff, our leadership team, our eldership team. Thank you for such an incredible year. I'm looking forward to seeing what God does in 22. God bless y'all. See you on January 2nd.